Hello and welcome to a very special new segment on the Big Rican on Sports podcast. This is the Big Rican Buckeye Weekend Review. As I go through each game this season with the Buckeyes, I'm not going to have time to do previews, so I can do reviews usually Sunday or Monday nights after they play their game on Saturday. Today is Monday, September the 5th, Labor Day. Happy Labor Day to everybody. Hope everybody enjoyed a nice day off as it poured in upstate New York. So we were inside all day. So really want to get to what went on Saturday night at the Horseshoe, where in the most anticipated opener that I can remember in Ohio State history, they played number 5 Notre Dame in a 2 versus 5 matchup this early in the season. What were we going to see? There was a 17.5 point spread. The time of the game when the lines closed, it was 16.5. So everybody thought it was going to be a blowout. Well, someone never told Notre Dame. So I want to go over each quarter with you. I want to tell you things I liked, things I saw that I think they need to improve on, and things I thought Notre Dame did well. So let's start right off the bat. And the best thing I thought they did all night, as far as setting a tone, is Ryan Day put his defense on the field first, which is the most maligned unit he's had there in years. He inherited the team in 2019, and he had a dominant defense that helped him get to what should have been a trip to the national championship game against LSU. Shoddy refereeing, in my opinion, didn't get them there. So the last couple years, the defense has let Ohio State down. 2 years ago with letting Alabama just run wild on it, and last year with not even getting to the Big Ten championship game for the first time in Ryan Day's tenure as head coach at Ohio State. So coming into the season, that was the unit they did the most work on, with the addition of Jim Knowles from Oklahoma State as the new defensive coordinator, and letting him hire his staff. Which isn't unheard of, but at Ohio State is pretty unheard of. Because normally, from what I've seen, the head coach brings in who he wants at each level. Whether it's defensive assistants or offensive assistants. In this case, defensive obviously is what we're speaking about. But he put his defense on the field first, and right away, Notre Dame had a big play, a couple of plays into the game. Let me back up a little bit. Kickoff coverage was the best I've seen it since Urban Meyer was there. That kid caught that kick at the 2 and he got to the 14. It was a great job on kickoff coverage. They actually did that all night. Notre Dame's average starting field position was not very good. I did watch just about the whole thing. I did miss some. I had Bobby up with me, so I did miss some when I finally put into bed. But yeah, it was a great night on kick coverage. So let's get to that first offensive series for Notre Dame. The big play actually happened because a guy tried to make a play when the defensive back, and I can't remember who it was right now, actually went to tried to step in front of a pass and missed. And Notre Dame's receiver took it down into the red zone. So now, as a Buckeye fan who's seen this show one too many times, I'm going, great. Here we go. We're going to go down 7. Notre Dame's going to have the momentum. And this is going to be a night when I'm going to sit on the edge of my couch and wonder if this team is going to be as good as we think it is. Well, the defense stepped up. And at 12-13 in the first quarter, Blake Group kicked a 33-yard field goal to make it 3-0 Notre Dame. They had 3 shots inside the red zone and didn't do anything. A name you're going to hear a lot this year is Michael Hall. He is a monster on the defensive line, stepping in for an All-American in Haskell Garrett. What a great night he had. He was constantly in Buckner's face, the quarterback from Notre Dame. Great night. Bucks get the ball, can't do much with it. And then something else happens as they lose Jackson Smith-Njigba on his first catch of the night. He tried to play a little bit in the second quarter, but after halftime, he was gone. Now, once again, C.J. Stroud is playing with a team that's without its best wide receiver. A defensive struggle from there until 5:32 left in the quarter, when on a third down and Notre Dame brings the house, he hits Emeka Egbuka, who spins away from the defensive back and scores a 31-yard touchdown to make it 7-3 Ohio State. So now you're thinking, okay, they figured him out. Not so much. A long touchdown drive by Notre Dame to make it 10-7 with 12 minutes left in the half. So what was supposed to be a 17.5 point, was a 17.5 point underdog, now had a 3-point lead, and they took that 3-point lead in a halftime. Notre Dame scored at the 11:56 mark of the second quarter. This is where it became huge, because those are the last points that Notre Dame scored on the evening. That's right, this Buckeye defense, much maligned and in its first game under a new DC, held its opponent scoreless for 41 minutes. Notre Dame's not a bad team, folks. They are a very quality football team that if they run the table could probably be the 4 seed or even the 3 seed in the college football playoff. What a dynamic defense Ohio State now has. They pressured the quarterback. They played good on the back end. Sound tackling. Wasn't many missed tackles on this night. The line, Tommy Eichenberg stepped up and played great. Jack Sawyer was playing stand-up on the end of the line. Jim Knowles may be just what this team needed. Jack Sawyer, Tommy Eichenberg, TJ Ugalele, by the way, I was getting his name wrong all last week, all played very well. Eichenberg had a sack. I mean, he was busting through the line, left, right, and center. When you're built like a Big Ten team like Notre Dame is, you have to run the football. They averaged 2.6 yards a carry. 20 carries for, it was 30 carries for 60, 70 yards. Notre Dame takes the lead into the half. Ohio State gets the ball coming out of the half, 3 and out. This offense only going to put up 7 points? No. With 17 seconds left in the first half, C.J. Stroud again on a third down, again on cover 0 by Notre Dame. They were bringing the house. Hits light-used fifth-year senior transfer Xavier Johnson for a 24-yard touchdown to give the Bucks a 14-10 lead. And then we saw something we hadn't seen for a couple of years. The ground and pound of Ohio State football. I love watching Ryan Day's offenses run. The way they throw the ball, the way they utilize the crossing routes to make teams have to cover straight up or play a kind of zone to keep up with these gazelles he's got in the wide receiver room. The way they can put up points, and a lot of points quickly, if you remember the Rose Bowl. Remember, C.J. Stroud threw 3 balls in a row that all went in the end zone. This team played ground and pound football. With 11 minutes left in the game, up 14-10, Ohio State marched on a 95-yard, 7-minute drive. Mayan Williams just ran the ball right down Notre Dame's throat. C.J. Stroud made a couple of good throws. He went 9 of 9 in the second half. 9 of 9 in the fourth quarter. To end at 24 of 34 for 223 and 2 touchdowns, no turnovers. But it was a clean game. There were no turnovers in this game. Both teams played clean. Travion Henderson had 15 carries for 91 yards. Mayan Williams put up another 80-something. So the Bucks ran for 170, almost 180 yards on the ground. Haven't seen that other than big games from Travion Henderson for the last season. It's been a lot of throwing the ball. But they just pounded the ball down Notre Dame's throat. As Mayan Williams took 4 handoffs in a row. Travion Henderson was trying to come back on the field, and Mayan Williams shoved him off. Basically did the, keep feeding me. And he balled 2 dudes over to get into the end zone to make it 21-10, which was the final score of this great game. What a way to open the 2022 season, a 2-score win over the number 5 team in the country. It's a pretty big feather in the cap. After the game, Ryan Day was asked about his offense, and he goes, guys, we just beat the number 5 team in the country by 2 scores. Let's talk about that. And he's right. Was the line correct with the expectations on Notre Dame coming into the season? I think the line might have been correct. I actually said on the preview show with Jim and Willie the other night, or just with Jim, Willie really talked about the trade and whatnot. I did not think Notre Dame was going to cover, or Ohio State was going to cover. I thought Notre Dame would play them better. I thought they'd win by more than 2 touchdowns. But here's the bottom line. The number 2 team in the country and the number 5 team in the country come into their house, and they beat them by 2 scores. Not much more you can ask for to start a season out of Ohio State. Now, Emeka Egbuka was the leading receiver, 9 catches for 90 yards and a touchdown. Like I said, Trevion Henderson, 15 carries for 91 yards. And again, C.J. Stroud, in the starting of his Heisman campaign against, this is easily going to be a top 10 defense. With Al Golden in there as a DC for Notre Dame, this is a top 10 defense. Again, 24-34, 223, 2 touchdowns, and no turnovers. So there is an injury concern. Jackson Smith-Njigba has a hamstring injury. He will not be available, I don't believe, for Arkansas State, but I don't think they'll need him for Arkansas State. Look for Marvin Harrison Jr. and Emeka Egbuka, who played great. Julian Fleming is going to step up. Xavier Johnson, who is, by the way, he caught the touchdown pass, but the best part was he went out and played kick team, and he's the one that made the tackle on the kickoff. This was a very, very good game by 2 very good football teams. And the sheer fact that it was week 1 is really the biggest thing you can take away from this, is that these guys were playing this good in week 1. Both teams can build off of this. If I'm Notre Dame, I'm saying, okay, brand new quarterback, all these pieces on offense weren't there, and we still were in that game. If I'm Ohio State, I have to take from this what Ryan Day said in his post-game presser. They stressed all summer they had to win ugly. They won ugly against Notre Dame. This was not the Michigan State game last year when Stroud was hitting everybody and their mama for a touchdown. You get a touchdown, you get a touchdown. It wasn't that way. They earned every single yard and every single thing they did. Biggest thing in the game that was different, Ohio State was 7 of 13 on 3rd down. Notre Dame was 4 of 13. Can't win if you can't convert on 3rd down. Last year, Ohio State was giving up a 3rd down conversion 42% of the time. That's a heck of a statement against a good team Saturday night. So where do we go from here? Arkansas State on Saturday, Toledo thereafter, and then we get into the Big Ten schedule as I talked about. I'll come to you guys probably next Sunday to discuss the Arkansas State game. Maybe go into a little bit more depth into a couple things, because I don't think it's going to be much of a game. I don't like these games. I don't like when they play the FCS teams and blow them out. I mean, it's fun to watch for a little bit, and it gives you stuff to do with the family on Saturdays, but play good teams. Have games like Saturday night. Have games where you got to fight for every single yard, because that's how you win in November. And that's how you win a championship, is you know how to fight for every single yard in every single game. No more evident than what they celebrated at the end of the first quarter. And that's where I'm going to end this episode. It has been now 20 years since Ohio State won the national championship in 2002. In that epic Fiesta Bowl in 2003 against a juggernaut Miami that no one thought would lose. Even Herbstreit, who was talking smack during game day about it, picked Miami to win that game. Coach Corso put the duck on his head. Coach put Brutus on Sunday. But something else happened on Saturday that I don't think anybody's really going to want to talk about because of what we're going to be missing. This will be one of the last games that Chris Fowler and Kirk Herbstreit call for Ohio State, unless they get into the playoff in the national championship game, as that giant $7 billion broadcasting contract with Fox, CBS, and NBC goes into effect starting next season. We will probably see game day at Ohio State again this year. I'm pretty sure they will be in the shoe again for the game in November, especially if both teams are as good as I think they're going to be. Everybody on Twitter's like, oh, Michigan won 55-0. They played Oregon State. They're an FBS team in name only. Ohio State beat the number 5 team in the country. Let's see where the season takes us. It's going to be a lot of fun. I think this team is primed for a championship run. They have a quarterback who's going to be in the New York again as a finalist for the Heisman. They have 2 stud running backs. Cade Stover made some great plays Saturday night at tight end, wearing the Rob Gronkowski thing on his arm. Once they get JSN back, you know what he can do, and you know what the rest of these guys are capable of in Fleming, Ibuka, and Marvin Harrison Jr. Going to be a great season, and I'll try to come to you every single week with a post-game review of each game. Maybe even get some other fans of other teams on here, and we'll talk about the game that they have against them. I know Alex is in Chicago. Maybe I can get him for a Northwestern game. The invitation is always there for Willie. Of course, I'll have him on the preview. The only game I will preview, will be the big one this year in Columbus. As always, Big Rican can be found here on the Big Rican YouTube channel. When our live hits go, we can be found on YouTube and on Twitch now. The Twitter is at Big Rican on Sport. Facebook, Big Rican on Sports. Remember, we have a page on Podpage now where all the audio episodes go up. And I'm working on trying to find a way to get the last few lives up onto the audio platforms. And I did a Mets show last weekend that for some reason isn't on Spotify, but it is on Google, it is on everywhere else, it's on Amazon. And the audio places, again, Spotify, Google, Amazon, Pocket Cast, Radio Public, and Anchor. And remember, you just got to ask Alexa to play Big Rican. Thanks for the quick hit. Have a wonderful rest of your week. It's a short one for me because I only work tomorrow. So I'll come to you next week with at minimum just the Buckeye review video. Wow, it's late at night. But I think you're going to see the Wise Guys on Friday or Saturday. Have a great night, guys. Take care.